This episode of the Cut Podcast Network is sponsored by Better Fantasy. That's Bettor Fantasy. Better Fantasy is a new free-to-play app that lets you sync your fantasy football league and bet on the matchups. You can cash out for gift cards when your bets hit and even help raise money for charity along the way. They are a brand new company looking to grow their early adopter community, and you should do it. It's a slick app. It's really fun to use. I've been using it for the last couple of weeks. I've won some bets. I've lost some bets, but it's really fun. It's a good time. One of the reasons I also love it is they also offer prop betting. So if you're in a state that hasn't legalized gambling yet, you can get in some prop bets on Better Fantasy. It's totally free to play. Download it today for iPhone and Android and use the code THECUT when you create your account to receive 1,000 Better credits when you start your account. Thank you to Better Fantasy for sponsoring this episode.
Stay on.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of The Cut. I am your host, Christian Williams, and I am here, as always, with Randy Hall. Randy, how are you, man?
Doing pretty good, man. It's been a weird day. I usually don't make the show doc today, so everything feels jumbled for me.
That's true.
Had a phone interview today, too.
Nice.
Awkward. I'm not going to lie. They're very awkward. I don't like
Phone
it.
interviews suck. Yeah, they're not fun. I even prefer Zoom interviews, I think, than phone. But
definitely.
Well, that's awesome, man. Good luck. Good luck. I hope you get some calls back. But we are here to talk about week 14 of the NFL. We are doing our Fallout segment. We'll probably touch on some waiver guys, but it's the playoffs. If you're relying on too many waiver guys, you're probably not in the playoffs, right? So
probably.
So we'll touch on maybe some strategy regarding the waiver wire. And then we're also going to take a look at the NFL playoffs and kind of what the scenarios look like. We were just talking about it before we went live. Pretty much every game this week and next week are key games for someone. The whole NFC is wide open. The AFC, especially the AFC North, is wide open. And so we're about to have a fun last few weeks of football. We have 4 weeks left. We're about 75% done, right? 17
Something
games.
like
So, yeah. So math's hard sometimes, but yeah, it's about to be an exciting end to the season. So while we know that the fantasy playoffs are going to be going on for the next couple of weeks, we do want to highlight some of the NFL playoffs. We'll hit some plugs at the end. So let's just jump right into it. And for the week 14 fallout, we always start with injuries and talk through some of those. And this week is especially important because we are heading into the fantasy football playoffs. And so the first one we want to talk about is Lamar Jackson. He had what is being called a low ankle sprain, so not a high ankle sprain, so that should be better, but there is still no clarification on a time frame. I saw that Harbaugh said that he is week or day to day, but they hope that he gets out there this Sunday against the Packers. Randy, how do you feel about Lamar? Do you think he's going to play this weekend?
Well, there's still, I know they had, I believe, an MRI today on the ankle, and it really didn't clarify things for them necessarily. Just clarified not broken, clarified not high ankle sprain. From basically all I've seen, that's it. So as far as playing this week, I know they don't have an early game, so it's a Sunday game. And I think there's a chance, especially after a loss as last week, they clearly need a win, but this is a tough opponent who's coming off of another great game in the Packers. So I wouldn't be shocked if this is truly a day-to-day week-to-week injury. I wouldn't be shocked if Lamar sits, and that sucks. Because you don't want Lamar out there having to just be a pure pocket passer. That's the problem. So if you're only going to have 70% of Lamar, or probably like 25% of Lamar, because you can't run the ball more than just a little bit for like 2 yards, I'd rather just sit him for the week if I'm the Ravens, especially because the one loss isn't going to kill you in the playoff race.
No, and with how impactful the rest of the games are for them, I mean,
Yeah.
we were just talking about the Ravens schedule, and we were going to get to it later, but it is important to note now. They get the Packers this week. They turn around and get the Bengals. Then they get the Rams. Then they get the Steelers. So 2 divisional games, and divisional games are always tough, especially in the AFC North. And then 2 of the most difficult non-conference games. It's just it's going to be very tough for them. And so sitting him a week might make some sense. I think if you had a quarterback that maybe didn't rely on his legs as much, I think you play him. Josh.
Like with Josh Allen with his foot straight, like him being day to day, if he just can't run this game, that's fine.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's kind of how they got in the game, was with his.
But that was specific game plan, though.
I know.
That's not every week where he runs for 100 yards.
It's very true. It's very true. Yeah. So keep tabs on Lamar. We didn't put it in the waiver wire segment. Do you have interest in adding Tyler Huntley against the Packers then?
No.
Okay. That's probably fair. The Packers have a really good defense. We saw a little bit of that on Sunday Night Football last night. All right, next guy, Emmanuel Sanders. He has a knee injury. Randy, talk to me about the knee. Do you know?
Yeah, again, we haven't gotten like this absurd amount of updates on a lot of these guys this week, unfortunately, going into the Monday show. It's just a knee injury. I do not know the severity from reports so far, but he hasn't been doing great of late anyways. He definitely was one of the early of the season darlings for people like Sean, who got him at the waivers or drafted him really late. But he's kind of been slowed down as of late. And with this injury, I think they let him sit and get completely healthy, because Gabriel Davis kind of showed out in his absence and alongside him on the field over the last couple of weeks with his deteriorating play. Or at least effectiveness, I guess I should say, for fantasy. I mean, it's not like he's out there dropping passes or something, but
yeah,
Gabriel Davis has kind of showed out, and if he's banged up, I don't see why you'd even consider playing Emmanuel Sanders if you're the Bills, who, yes, you lost, so it does hurt your playoff race and everything, but you're still a team that everyone expects to make the playoffs, and I don't think Emmanuel Sanders being out a week does anything to that.
Yeah, Gabe Davis this week, 8 targets, 5 receptions, 43 yards, and a touchdown. Good stat line. This was kind of what people were expecting. They kind of forgot that Emmanuel Sanders was signed as they were making projections forward for the Bills this offseason. But hopefully maybe Gabe Davis can be a playoff darling or a league winner per se.
Possibly.
Probably not. Next one, Kareem Hunt. He has an ankle injury, and Kevin Stefanski basically said that he does not expect Kareem Hunt to play this week. He has been deemed week to week. I did not catch the Browns game live, shocking to all of our listeners, but in watching it back, probably smart to leave Kareem off the field, because the run game for the Browns is just not working anyway. And ultimately, when I walked out of that game and I said the most effective running back that they had in this game was Dearness Johnson. And so I think getting Dearness some snaps is going to be okay.
Yeah, and it comes with the obvious caveat that whenever Chubb's in the game, the Ravens don't expect any form of pass. They just expect a run. And then when Dearness is in the game, they really don't even expect Dearness to run the ball because, he's the third string running back. They're worried more about everything going through the air there. And it's not like he was dominant on the ground either. He just had basically, I'd say, 1 good run, 2 good runs, but only 1 that counted.
Yeah, that's true.
So it was the same thing if you expected Chubb or Hunt or Dearness, in case one of those went down, to have this spectacular game this week after watching 2 weeks ago against the Ravens. I think you're sorely mistaken, because teams generally don't completely flip their script when you kind of dominate that aspect of the game. They don't generally now we're going to have 4-person fronts and only 1 linebacker in there. No, they're going to come back with that full stack box and not let you beat them at what you're good at.
Yeah. I'm glad we don't have to talk too much about the Browns' second half. I do want to mention as a little one-off, despite Kareem Hunt not being ultra effective or Nick Chubb being ultra effective, Baker Mayfield was the third highest graded quarterback per PFF this week. Had a very good game, and that was with a bad second half. So, not pushing narratives too much, but I'll just push it a little bit. Just a little tap in. All right, next injury. Aaron Rodgers, we have in here the toe got worse. Randy, can you expand on that? I did not.
Yeah, he explained that he feels really banged up as of last night. His toe has gotten worse, and then it was brought up that the surgery to fix it was kind of the last resort type deal, and that was the whole report. So when that's the whole report, I get a little nervous because I don't think he sits or gets surgery because he knows they're kind of all or nothing right now. I think he tries to stave off, just like Baker stave off to the off season. But this is where, and if it got worse in this game, where I don't really think he got that beat up, in my opinion. I mean, limits completely the running and his capability, but shouldn't really limit that much of the throwing, which is what Aaron Rodgers does. So I would just kind of look at it basically. It's I don't think he sits unless it's unplayable kind of thing. But I wouldn't expect anything on the ground from now on.
I will say the Packers did lose another offensive lineman in this game to injury, and it looks like he will be out this week. It was a pretty bad roll up. So you never know with linemen because they're psychopaths, but who was it? Billy?
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
I watched the play and I was like, "Yep, he's not doing great." I can tell you that.
Yeah, but I do think that means that Aaron Rodgers could have a little bit of a rough day against the Ravens because they do have a really good front.
Yeah,
now.
they will attack him, and that's one of the things though. If his escapability and running is completely limited by this toe, and you face a team like the Ravens, even if they don't have Lamar, it doesn't matter because that defense is still gonna be coming after you regardless.
Yeah. I'd expect some quick game, maybe a nice little slant to Devontae for a nice long touchdown, or a couple. Rex Burkhead, groin injury. I don't care too much. I don't think
he was just basically like the start. He was. There's no one there I care about. It's
very true. Very true. Austin Eckler, ankle injury. I did hear today that he would have gone back in the game had it been a close game. He was getting all wrapped up, and then they just decided, no need, buddy. You just sit right back down.
I saw that as well. I honestly put this in here for more of when we get to the waivers. First of all, waivers, just get your handcuffs for running backs right now. Yes. For the Chargers, don't. Just don't, because honestly, it's just me or if Eckler's out, they're using 3 running backs.
Yeah, for
sure.
So
you're hoping you pick the one that gets a touchdown, and then he's barely a flex. So just don't.
Yeah, you'd pick up Larry Roundtree and it'd be a Josh Kelly day. So it's don't pain yourself with those decisions. And ultimately, the Chargers play the Chiefs. The Chargers are gonna try to throw the ball and score a lot of points because Justin Herbert can throw the ball 70 freaking yards in the air.
The other thing with Eckler, they play Thursday. So if it is even a little bit of an issue, he may sit just because this is a team that is, again, fighting for playoffs. And if your guys are 80%, possibly could get hurt worse in a short week, it's tough to say that they play.
Especially against the Chiefs defense that's playing out of its mind right now. They're playing pretty well.
Yeah.
Sorry. I know we can't really talk about that game. All right,
I don't even know what you're talking about. I saw Hunter Renfrow have like this great game. I don't know what this Raiders team is you speak of. I just saw Hunter Renfrow do well.
I just hope they play poorly again on Saturday. Gio Bernard, hip injury. It sounds as though he is going to be out for the rest of the year with this hip injury. It's a multi-week injury, and maybe he's back for the playoffs, but not.
He's out for the fantasy season.
Yeah, so you probably weren't playing Gio too often anyway. This might just mean an uptick in Leonard Fournette pass catching work, and it might get Ronald Jones on the field, but also doesn't matter for fantasy, unfortunately. Rest in peace, Rojo. Taylor Heineke, knee injury. He had an MRI today. I did not see an update on that MRI, but
same.
It looked as though it wasn't a serious injury. It might be more of a sprain, but Kyle Allen slots in as the starter. That's not something I would ever want to mess with. So just avoid that now. How does that impact this next guy? Shout out that train.
Jesus Christ.
On point every week.
Wow.
It's a loud one.
So loud.
So I'll couple that actually with, so Terry McLaurin left this game with a concussion. He was held to 0 catches on 4 targets in this football game before leaving with a concussion. If he is clearing the protocol and Kyle Allen is the quarterback, are you nervous to start him in your playoff matchups?
Yeah. Well, he's kind of been quarterback proof throughout the years, which is fair here. But he's been pretty quarterback proof, and man, there's no update on his knee, unfortunately. So I think you could play him, I think, as a wide receiver 2 flex kind of scenario, but
okay.
It's one of those things where he's not most teams' wide receiver 3s, you know. So unless you want wide receiver really early in the draft, but
yeah. Shout out to Kevin from the Debbie Royale, my co-host over there. The big debate today on if there should be trade deadlines in dynasty leagues. He says no. Most of my leagues have them to prevent like the ultimate tank and also stacking up, contenders, and it makes sense on both sides. But this is an instance where like I wish the trade deadline wasn't existent because I could go out and get some wide receiver reinforcement in some of my leagues if I have Terry McLaurin. But it's just part of fantasy.
It's a part of fantasy, and I get it. I do. I think I don't think in a pure dynasty league I'm like all for not having a trade deadline. I think in a Devi league I'm all for not having it. Obviously, with college side, you kind of want to have more flexibility with everything. But for me, and a lot of people that are like against trade deadlines also say, well, just cut it off for the playoffs. It's like, well, then there is a trade deadline, and you're counteracting what you just said. So which one is it? For me, I in Dynasty, you, especially with a group of friends or like work colleagues or stuff, industry people, there really won't be a sense of you calling like collusion on trades, but the trades that we're discussing right here, where people are loading up for the playoffs and everything, in a sense could be viewed as collusion, especially if the person kind of giving up for the future isn't really all knowledgeable about the value of what the depth or the picks that they're getting back. So it does, unless it's a really competitive league, it does breed for chaos. And that's chaos usually makes people unhappy, which then could lead to the league unfolding, and it's just not worth it to me.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, I have trade deadlines in all of mine, but like I said, I get both points. But either way,
I do too. It's just
Terry McLaurin's probably fine. He could get you a baseline of 10 points. Like, I don't think he's going to be held catchless if he's healthy. So
he's kind of needed the touchdowns of late to be effective is the unfortunate part.
That's true. That is true. All right. That's it for the injuries from this week. Let's move on to the highlights. And I knew this would be the first name on the list, but Hunter Renfrow, the wide receiver 12 in PPR leagues right now, has been going berserk over the last 3 weeks. So this week especially, 14 targets, 13 catches, 117 yards, and a touchdown. just about he was fastly approaching 30 fantasy points, which where you got Hunter Renfrow in your drafts or even how you acquired him in Dynasty, this is the ultimate return. No one expected a wide receiver 1 year out of Hunter Renfrow, and there's a good chance that it keeps up this week against the Browns. Randy, how did you feel about this Renfrow explosion?
Seems how it was my start of the week. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
He helped me in a lot of matchups, but this dude's just been killing it. He's taken over this role as the guy. And of course, the last couple, you could say 3 weeks technically without Waller in a sense because of an early injury. He's just been the guy, and 5 wide receiver 1 weeks in the last 6 weeks is all I have to say. If you have Hunter Renfrow, play him. I am slightly wary this week, especially if the Browns can get Newsom back this week to just continue to bolster that corner room. Troy Hill is a very good slot corner. However, Renfrow seemingly it doesn't matter because he's very, very shifty. So and it's not like he's getting a 10-yard catch and then runs it for the next 50. He gets 10 yards, then he gets 15, then he gets 8, then he gets 2, then he gets 50. It's like, what? Whoa. What's going on? And he's just going to keep getting peppered. Derek Carr is the guy of confidence in the receiver. If he likes you, if he trusts you, you are getting the ball. Plain and simple. We still don't know status of Darren Waller for this week. It is a shorter week, yet again, playing on Saturday. So we'll see.
Yeah. There was some talk that maybe Waller would be activated last week. So I kind of expect him to play this week. I don't know, obviously it matters a little bit, but this is 3 straight weeks of over 100 yards for Hunter Renfrow. And he has a very good opportunity so with 4 weeks left in the season, and we all know that the total points count that last week, if he gets 63 points over that span of time, which is well within his range of outcomes, he will have produced, he would have doubled. If you combine his first 2 years, he would have doubled it, or he would have outpaced his first 2 years entirely. So incredible year, breakout year. Hunter Renfrow is going to be drafted very, very highly next year, and then Marcus Mariota is going to miss him all the time. Yeah, I know. Hopefully not.
Well, he won't because the Raiders most likely pick a receiver in the first, and then everyone will be like, well, he did it with no one there. And so the narrative will shift back. So
that is true.
Yeah, we're fine.
Yeah. All right. On the other side of the ball, I'm sorry we have to talk about this side of the ball, Randy, but the Kansas City Chiefs were incredible in this football game. I believe they went up 35-0. I think that was the halftime score. Patrick Mahomes
got a field goal in there.
Oh, okay, 35-3, right? Okay, that's great. Final score was 48-9. Patrick Mahomes, 20 of 24, 258, 2 touchdowns. Chad Henne, 3 carries for -2 yards. Those are some nice kneel downs. I don't know if you guys saw the Packers backup quarterback. He posted a picture of his knee with the paint on it and said that's a win or something like that. Just boss move. Chad Henne could have done that as well. But the main, so in this game, there wasn't a really great fantasy performance. Now, outside of all of the running backs that played for the Chiefs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 2 touchdowns. He only carried the ball 10 times, though. They split the work up between 3 guys. The main thing that I want to talk about, though, and I know this is our highlights segment, the Chiefs were electric. Their defense is incredible. But Travis Kelce, 3 catches for 27 yards. Why? How? Was it that doesn't happen against the Raiders?
They didn't need him.
It's fair. But
Tyreek Hill was getting open on like curl routes and going off early. They were dominating the ground. They were getting short fields. So it was a ridiculous first half. And it really wasn't all because of the Chiefs. Honestly, the Chiefs defense really didn't play that well. It just looks that way because of the turnovers. And in my opinion, the turnovers were caused by the Raiders just being crappy. You had Josh Jacobs fumbling for a touchdown the very first play, where he
Yeah.
like never fumbles, and for some reason he fumbles there. Foster Rowe fumbles out of nowhere. And then Renfro gets perfectly punched and fumbles as well. And Moreau fails to leap on top of it. He actually just basically shoots the ball into Tyrann Mathieu's hands instead. So it was more of that, in my opinion, than the Chiefs defense like dominating. But I will say they were getting pressure pretty regularly.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that's the thing that has been impressive to me is Chris Jones bumping inside and Melvin Ingram being on the outside has really opened that up for the Chiefs, and it's fun. So I believe Ben Solak did write a piece though for the Ringer that basically said like a lot of their success has been show and kind of like it might not be sustainable. So we'll see how they play down the stretch. But they have a prime opportunity this Thursday against the Chargers to prove if they're real or not. So, well, we know they're real. They're the Chiefs, but you know what I mean. All right, next guy on the list is Rashad Penny. There were some tweets, Twitter's a fun place about how we can't sucker ourselves into Rashad Penny after he got 11 touches last week. Well, you should have. 16 carries, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did add a catch for a yard, and that was fun. But he scored over 20 fantasy points, and it was kind of like, yeah, this is what they drafted him to be. It just happened 4 years too late, or 3.5 years too late, I guess. But what do you think of his performance? I mean, do you think this is sustainable moving forward?
Yeah, I think it's sustainable. He looked really good running the football. I kind of was more on the screen. I spent a lot of Saturday night, Sunday morning picking him up everywhere, playing him a few places, but picking him up just to have as that guy in the bench in case it works out, and it worked out. So I'm very happy with the result. He gets the Rams this week. Iffy there. I mean, James Conner has had a pretty good night, but he's had a decent game through the air as well. Then after that, they must play someone really bad because I don't see him on the list. So that's a good
Of
thing
key
for them.
matchups? Yeah.
They probably play like the Lions or something crappy. And then they kind of drop off the list because I assume they lose. So yeah, the NFC is going to get fun when we can talk to it. But I think he is the waiver wire. I think you spend everything on him and you just run with it. I think you can expect at least what you were getting from Alex Collins when you wanted him to actually play in the lineup. Yeah. So at least like that 10, 12 points with touchdown upside. But he has the ability to, break free and get over 50 yards, clearly.
Yeah. Still an explosive player. He does get the Rams, as you said, but then the Bears and the Lions in back-to-back weeks. And so Bears run defense is not
hit
outstanding, but
it's hit or miss at best.
So, okay. Next thing, Josh Allen and Tom Brady. This was what I would call the game of the week. There were a lot of games of the week, but this one especially, I'm sorry to Jeff, my other co-host on the Debbie Royale, who experienced the non-called pass interference on the throw in the end zone on the Bucks, and then they called pass interference on the ensuing drive in overtime, on the Bucks' next drive, I guess it would be. But tough scene, but this game was incredible. The Bills, they actually, when they came back in this game, I was shocked because it looked like they were primed to roll over, die, and potentially miss the playoffs. The fact that they fought back makes me think they still have it, but they're very reliant on Josh Allen, and I don't know if they can win games by doing design quarterback runs as your only means to move the ball on the ground. Do you think that's sustainable?
Well, yeah, in a sense, but you got to also remember who they played. They played Tampa, who is a top 3 run defense, any stat you look at. So
it's true.
Running straight up the middle with Devin Singletary is not really the option. So getting power, getting that extra blocker with the QB run scheme was pretty much the only way they were going to be able to run the ball against this kind of team. I don't think that's the only answer moving forward against some of these other matchups, but it was smart play calling.
It's true. On the other side of the ball, Tom Brady and Mike Evans was my start of the week. He went 6 for 6, 91 yards and a touchdown, and the touchdown catch was incredible. One of the best catches of the weekend that actually counted. There were some cool ones that didn't, specifically DJ Moore's. Donovan Peoples-Jones had a nice one too, but the Bucs looked like the Bucs, and in the first half, and then the Bills kind of narrowed it down, and it became a grinded out game, and I knew that the Bucs were still going to win this game because they are the Bucs and they have Tom Brady, and Tom Brady beats the Bills, and that's just how it goes. I'm sorry, Bills fans. So, great game though, great fantasy performances as well. So, all right, next up we have Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook, if you don't recall, this was a long, long time ago now, way back on Thursday night. He just went berserk. People sat him. We didn't have a ton of clarity until a couple hours before the game, and then they said, no, wheels up for Dalvin Cook. So I put him in my lineup, thank God. But he ran the ball 27 times for 205 yards. He averaged 7.59 yards per carry. He had 2 touchdowns. It looked like he could have run for 300 yards, and it looks as though Dalvin Cook will be the workhorse that we know him to be for the fantasy playoffs. That injury didn't look to be hampering him at all, right, Randy?
Yeah, he looked really solid. Also, though, there was like massive gaps. So maybe in a more grinded out kind of game, we get to see more how that shoulder's tested. But in this one, he looked perfectly healthy.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, and so Dalvin Cook over the next 3 weeks, he gets the Bears, then the Rams, then the Packers. So it's kind of a tough schedule, but it doesn't matter with Dalvin Cook. So fire him up. Don't sit him. I know some people did and regretted it very, very much so.
Well, like you said, if you weren't up to date on everything, the narrative was, I don't know how much work he gets, but like you said, about 2 hours before game time, especially an hour before the game time, it was just everyone saying he's full go. They don't care. He's getting the ball. At that point, you play him.
Yeah, very true. All right, the next guy, we're just talking about quite a few studs here in a row. But Alvin Kamara, so he missed 4 games with an injury, came back immediately back to his old self, 27 carries, 120 yards, and a touchdown, added 4 catches for 25 yards through the air. There was some skepticism surrounding him because of Taysom Hill. I think this put that to rest. I think you're fully confident in Kamara as an RB1 every week for the remainder of the year, right?
Yep, full go. Same with Dalvin. I think they are the lead horses with Jonathan Taylor carrying people through the playoffs now.
Yeah. Here's a guy that we aren't necessarily fully sold on. You especially have talked about this, but Saquon Barkley, we have in here that he's finally back to being the RB1. The funny part is he actually saw a decrease in his snaps in this game. He was just more effective. And ultimately, it's touchdowns, guys. Like, if the Giants can score a touchdown, Saquon's going to finish as an RB1 or close to it. In this game, he went 16 of 64. Didn't score a touchdown there, but he did catch a nice touchdown, and they lined him up on the outside, which is exactly what Saquon's supposed to do. He caught 3 balls for 31 yards and added that touchdown there. Now, Randy, the question here, is he a surefire put in your lineup for the fantasy playoffs?
We need to break down matchups. I think that's going to be a week to week look at it. But it's Saquon. It's hard to say he's going to be anything worse than at least a flex option for you.
Yeah.
And there's possibility of Daniel Jones coming back.
Yeah.
See.
I guess that's bad, right?
No, it helps them. Their offense can move the ball a little bit more.
I guess
it's being kind of put around that this week they're getting more tests done, evaluating if he is full go or not. So hopefully we know this week.
Yeah, that'd be great. Kind of have to zip through these. Next one, George Kittle. So the last 2 weeks for George Kittle, 27 targets, 22 catches, 300 and math's so hard right now. 332 yards
been
and
killing
3
it.
touchdowns. Yeah,
That's
I was adding up real time, clearly. Over the last 2 weeks, depending on your format, George Kittle has just destroyed the tight end position. Not even depending on your format. I know Mark Andrews had a massive day too, but if you combine the last 2 weeks, George Kittle looks to be the elite tight end that we know him to be. He's the tight end 3 on the year, and he missed, I believe, 3 games in the middle of the year. So I know this is with like a banged up Debo Samuel, but Debo was out there and he was healthy and he wasn't himself, and we kind of knew that, but it doesn't matter. George Kittle is back to exactly what we wanted him to be, and that's exciting. That was a highlight for sure.
Yep.
And then the guy that we just touched on, Mark Andrews, incredible game you put in here versus prevent. Yeah, the Browns went to their nice little let's sit back in soft zone, and Mark Andrews took advantage of that. 11 catches, 11 targets, 115 yards, also caught a touchdown. So Mark Andrews is the tight end 1 for fantasy football right now over Travis Kelce. So poor Darren Waller.
Yeah,
poor Darren Waller. And then Dawson Knox. We get all of our tight ends in line here. Dawson Knox had a nice little game there. So let's move on to some lowlights because we're running out of time already. Chase Claypool. And the reason Chase Claypool was a lowlight was not his performance on the field, because in garbage time, now up until garbage time, Chase Claypool could have been considered a lowlight. But as the Steelers were mounting their comeback, especially on those last couple of drives, Chase Claypool was dominant. He looked like a surefire wide receiver 1. And then he makes a catch for a first down, points. And I actually went back and counted it because there was a lot of debate over Chase Claypool on Friday morning, and he cost them 6 seconds. And you can argue that he wasn't the one that cost them that time, that it was offensive lineman's fault. But my argument is that he shouldn't have been pointing. He should have gotten up, run the ball to the ref, who, he made his little excuse that, the ref wasn't there yet. Yeah, man, you've got to get to him. Like, what are you talking about? What do you think of this? Do you think this is going to be a constant issue with Chase Claypool?
No, I wouldn't necessarily, but his post-game presser did not help that, because he didn't want to take accountability for it necessarily. I think he ended up jabbing in there like, I got to be a little bit better. But like, dude, just take accountability. Say you fucked up. Say you thought it wasn't going to hurt anything because you didn't see the ref right away. But like, just take a little bit of accountability. It's like, for them, it's just always like the little things with these receivers. They draft these studs, and then little things start to pile up. They become big things. They become distractions. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be the case for Claypool. But you got to remember, he got a lot of early success that wasn't supposed to be. You gave him a nickname after a game that he didn't deserve, just because of comparison reasons. And this is somewhat of the outcome. I think he's going to get back to normal. Let this get out. Just get rid of this. Don't. Honestly, for him, if he didn't celebrate the next game, it would be the funniest thing ever. But smart, just be like, yeah, is this what you want? But like, in that key scenario, you just got to do everything you can to win. That could have been the difference between one more play and win. So,
yeah. Ultimately, you can't put the blame completely on him. The defense gave up 36 points or whatever the hell they scored. The Vikings scored. So, and they let Dalvin Cook run for over 7 a carry. So, no, you can't put the sole blame on him, but you can say that he contributed for sure, and that sucks.
And he contributed heavily to them being in the game. So
it's true.
It's a plus minus, but in the last 30 seconds, is the minus more, the plus more? That's the problem.
Yeah. Next guy, Cam Newton. I was wrong on Cam Newton, I guess. I can admit that he went 15 of 23 in this game, 178 yards and threw a pick. He did add 47 yards on the ground and a touchdown, so Cam still has it. The problem, he didn't look great doing it against the Falcons defense, which, to be fair, AJ Terrell has had a great year, and the Falcons defense has performed a little better than what I would have expected, at least with guys that I have never even heard of. But there is the report that he is now sharing time under center. They're going with a 2-quarterback system. Matt Rule is a clueless man. But I saw the report today that they do plan to get both of them in there. So
there's also a possibility of Darnold being involved too, which is crazy. I don't think he's clueless. I just think he's trying to make the best of a kind of shit situation. And
I would argue yes, but like also don't fire your coordinator that while he hasn't had success, doing it when he did it didn't make any sense to me. Just let him ride out the year so that Cam actually has some consistency and continuity. And now you're asking a guy to come in after midseason, learn a playbook, but then also learn a different playbook. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's not smart. But for him, it's more of the came in, ran a touchdown in, threw a pick, got benched, came back in, threw a touchdown, I believe. Or was that PJ? PJ threw the touchdown, actually.
PJ threw the touchdown.
But he came back in, and then he came back. It's just...
Yeah.
It's kind of ridiculous. Like, at that point, just tell us PJ's the quarterback and Cam's going to come in for goal line. Like, just to run it. Like,
for sure. I do want to put out there too, I don't know who's listening, who's watching. Yes, I just admitted that I was wrong about Cam Newton. He hasn't looked great. I could give excuses. That's fine. If you want to hold me accountable for that, that's super dope. I deserve that for sure. Don't be an asshole. I had a lot of people saying, I should stop talking about football today. I can. If you want, but I'm not going to because I don't want to. So just throwing that out there. Don't be an asshole to analysts that do put a lot of time into it. I think it's kind of corny, but that's Twitter for you. Dak Prescott, another low light. Washington football team
he's been a low light of late.
He's been a low light for, he had one good game against the Raiders, but it's hard not to have a good game against the Raiders, and Baker Mayfield's really going to test that theory out here soon in a few days. But over the last 4 weeks, he has only gotten over 12 fantasy points that one time. So this week he went 22 of 39 for 211 yards, a touchdown and 2 picks. He added some yards on the ground, but this offense is not working as well as it did last year. I think Pollard being banged up in this game and not playing may have impacted that a little bit, but I'm not entirely sure what's going on with Dak. I am considering, so Dak gets the Giants next, which should be okay, but then he gets the football team again, and then the Cardinals, who, they did get kind of dunked on tonight, but like they are a good defense. I have decisions to make, and I don't like that. I wish it was a plug and play one.
Listen, I can tell you for the listener league, we're gonna play Dak, but it's because the Colts play the Patriots. So playing Wentz is one of the scariest things possible.
Yeah, you can't be doing that.
And we have Teddy 2 gloves as well, or Teddy 10 points. So I really don't want to play him.
Man, that's my decision though. Like I have the option to maybe slot Teddy in instead. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. So, yeah. So, but yeah, he was not good. Dallas pulled out the win. Micah Parsons is going to be the defensive rookie of the year, and he might very well win defensive player of the year, depending on these last few weeks. Trevor Lawrence.
I was going to say, let's quickly run through these, and then we could talk about the important parts.
Yeah. So we can actually eliminate some of these. So,
that's fine.
Trevor Lawrence. I don't want to harp on this kid. I think he's doing what he can with a terrible situation, and I will give him the same excuse that I will give Justin Fields. Terrible head coach, terrible culture, receivers that don't know what the hell they're doing, receivers that can't catch passes. Trevor Lawrence was bad in this game, though.
Yes, that's the thing. I don't think any of us expected him to be a quarterback 1 this week or even top 16, but he had like 1 point or so. Like he's very,
He had
very
1
bad.
point. Yeah.
And this offense was pure shit. Let's just be real. Urban Meyer didn't have Robinson in his doghouse, but then didn't let Robinson touch the ball.
Dude,
it's just sad. I think you basically at this point, I think unless you're playing like O'Shaughnessy in a super deep league, I think you could just bench everyone. Hold on to Robinson, see about the matchups. I probably would sit him this week and hope for the best. See a good game. Sucks that you didn't play him then, but like it's better than playing him for this.
yeah, it's it's bad in Jacksonville. We need to do a segment on coaches and what went wrong, and I'm sure we'll have some time for that in the next few weeks.
Yeah, we'll have plenty of time.
Yeah, but it's just bad. And you know what? We've talked enough about the lowlights. I think that'll do it for the lowlights for this episode. You want to talk about one more thing?
No, it's good. Next thing.
All right. So quickly, the waiver wire wish list, as I mentioned at the top, more strategy here than players. So Randy, why don't you walk us through exactly what you would be doing on the waivers this week, or will be doing?
Spend everything on Rashad Penny. You're not really carrying Fab into the playoffs. This is probably the last waiver wire you'll truly care about, except maybe picking up a defense or because of COVID, you have to pick up this guy or whatever. This week, you pick up Rashad Penny. You pick up a couple of the other guys we'll talk about. But the biggest thing is I would handcuff all your backs that have clear take the value if that guy's gone. Like Madison, Jeff Wilson, who's also on the list. I would say oh God, I mean there's so many, but like the Raiders, I think you just don't care. Browns, I think you could pick up Jerry Johnson, but it's tough. Maybe you can hear more about Kareem Hunt tomorrow, and then you do it. But I mean, you can go through the teams and do that. Maybe people had to drop Tony Pollard this week because of the injury, needed a player trying to get into the playoffs, pick him up. Just go through the list. If you see a high value handcuff and he's on the waiver wire, he needs to be rostered immediately. But Rashad Penny is the top. I would then go. Jeff Wilson is probably the only other running back that possibly has value. And then I'm just going to run through them all. And then hold on.
I was going to say really quickly to add a running back name in terms of handcuffing, Khalil Herbert.
Yes, that was the one I was trying to think of, but I couldn't think of it.
Yeah. So I know Herbert didn't get the run last night, more than Damian Williams at least, but I still think that Herbert would be the lead back if Monty were to go back down. So I think he would be on my list.
It's Khalil Herbert, Darrell Williams. If Jonathan Taylor goes down, I guess Hines, but also there's plenty like that. And there's maybe some like
Latavius Murray.
Latavius Murray, Mark Ingram, because of COVID, could have got dropped this week. Pick him up. The list continues, but go look for all those. Wide receiver wise this week, I don't think there's handcuffs wide receivers, so I don't care about that. But the ones that have been impactful and could be impactful for this playoff push, Amon-Ra St. Brown continuing back-to-back weeks, getting all the targets. Crap team, probably going to be the guy the rest of the season. There's a chance DeAndre Swift doesn't play again. There's a low chance Jamal Williams doesn't play again. So you get rid of two top options. Hawkinson's hurt and hasn't really done much. So Amon-Ra's the guy right now. Get him and possibly play him in a flex. We'll see. Rashad Bateman is the wide receiver 2-3 of this team if you count Mark Andrews. He's very, very talented, and he's got some opportunity. And then Gabriel Davis with Emmanuel Sanders going down, he's also continued to come on down the stretch. He's getting more opportunity with that injury. We've talked about it before. I think he could be very, very good for you down the stretch.
Yeah. Just a really quick note. So there was some Rashad Bateman discussion today regarding his dynasty value and what to do with him in dynasty. Matt Seward said he was going to sell, and then he kind of rethought after looking up his value and said, I'd probably hold at this rate. Rashad Bateman is on a 17-game pace while missing a lot of training camp. and missing most of the season, he is on a 17-game pace for about 70 catches, 900 yards, and 0 touchdowns. And that 0 touchdowns number is why you should not sell Rashad Bateman. That will regress to a mean. We don't know what that mean is just yet in this offense, but there will be some touchdown regression for Rashad Bateman. And in Dynasty, he could take more of the share next week, and his share has been good. So down the stretch, yes, but
in Dynasty period, I think we've seen enough from Duvernay this year that bolsters him enough on this team that I think Sammy Watkins can be an afterthought for the future and be gone. And you can go with a trio of Hollywood Brown, who's come along, Rashad Bateman, who you know is good and has shown promise, and then Duvernay to be that in-between guy, in between the sticks, along with Andrews, obviously, and an improved running game next year. Let's not forget that. They are getting their top 2 backs back next year. It's going to be vastly improved. This offense will be much better. So,
yeah. And the Ravens do a really good job. They have holes on their offensive line, and they will fix them. They will be a 100%. Great team.
That's going to be 80% of the draft, probably.
Probably. So, all right, let's get into a couple of the playoff scenarios and what's kind of going on. So AFC standings right now, the Patriots are in first place, followed by the Titans, Chiefs, Ravens, Chargers, Colts, and Bills. The first 3 out are the Browns, Bengals, and Broncos, all at 7 and 6. Then there are 3 more that are still very much so in the hunt, Raiders being the least in the hunt. But Steelers, Raiders, Dolphins are the last 3. The top 3 teams have a 90+% chance at making the playoffs. And then the next highest is actually the 5 seed Chargers at 86%. The Ravens are only at 76% because, as we mentioned at the top of the show, the AFC North is wide open. I would argue that the Ravens don't even have the best shot to win the AFC North right now, despite the numbers. We'll talk about some key games. The one question, so do you think that this is how it finishes with those 7 teams at the top?
No, I think Patriots, Titans, Chiefs, Ravens are all completely safe. I think the Bills most likely get in. I think the Colts most likely are not playoff teams. They do not have a necessarily favorable schedule. And then you have teams. The rest of the teams, basically Steelers, Raiders, and Dolphins, I think are all out of the hunt. Personally, just because of who they have to play. Browns, if they win this week, they jump significantly. And then they have other key matchups to go along with. Broncos, I would say, are probably out of the hunt. They faced a couple easier matchups of late, which has helped them bolster their record back up. But they play somewhat decent this week, I believe. And they'll probably lose. They play the Bengals. So Bengals, Broncos, probably one of those get knocked out after this week. If it's me, I'm saying the Broncos pretty much get knocked out. So then you have the Bengals, Browns, Bills, Colts, and Chargers pretty much fighting for the last 3 playoff spots. So right now I would go Chargers, Bills, Browns. Maybe a bit of a homer pick there. But you got to remember, if Browns win this week, then they also have to face the Steelers again, which they should have beat the last time, so they could beat again. And then they finish the season at the Bengals. So even if there is a tie trying to get into either win the division or just get into the 7th seed, they have an increased odds there because of the ability to control their own destiny.
Absolutely. The one team that, you mentioned the 3 teams that are fighting kind of. I think the Chargers are in. I think they're pretty much locked into the playoffs. I think there's a chance that we're talking about the Chiefs as oh shit, are they going to get in? Because I think the Chargers could win this Thursday. And if that happens, then this whole thing flips upside down. The Chiefs would then probably have a pretty good shot at making the playoffs, but it also would just virtually eliminate an entire slot. So while you could say that the Chargers are still fighting right now, if they beat the Chiefs, that pretty much locks in the first 5 teams. Now, I would argue that there's a chance that the Ravens miss the playoffs, depending on Lamar's injury, depending on, we talked about their schedule. It's very, very difficult the whole AFC North right now has a very, very difficult end of the season. It's a coin flip for me.
So here's the thing with the AFC playoff picture. So we have 3/4 of the AFC East. We have half of the AFC South. We have all of the AFC West, and we have all of the AFC North.
It's crazy.
The thing with that is the West, they all play each other. The North, they all play each other. And I know the Pats play the Bills left for sure, but other than that, I think they might play each other slightly. But I believe the Colts and the Titans are done playing each other. I believe they played twice already. So they're not having any more key matchups to face each other. The Bills have key matchups left and right. The Chargers play the Chiefs on Thursday. Then they get an easy game against the Texans. However, then they play the Broncos and Raiders to finish off. And where I did say both of those teams are probably out, that does not mean they make it. They're so bad that the Chargers are in.
That's true.
That's the key thing. We'll see. That's the kind of key thing with those. I think Thursday is going to be a real game changer for both the Chiefs and the Chargers, like you said.
Yeah. For what it's worth, too, with the Colts, they have probably the toughest 2 games here in a row with New England this week and then Arizona the following week. They do finish the season out against the Raiders and the Jaguars, though. So we could very well see them go 2-2 over that stretch. I don't think 9 wins will be enough. Ultimately, I think you have to have 10 wins to get into the playoffs in the AFC. And
that's the thing. Like, I think the Bills are locked in because they have a relatively easy schedule remaining. They play the Panthers, who have a flux at quarterback. I think they usually win that game. Then you have a rematch against the Patriots and at least hopefully better weather. Then you have the Falcons and the Jets. The Bills are in. So, in my opinion, they could lose one of these, even 2 of these, and probably make it. But they're most likely could lose to the Patriots, and that's probably about it on that remaining schedule.
Yeah, that's fair. And then, there's still a chance that the Bills win their division.
There is. They would have to beat the Patriots in 2 weeks, but
they do. But the Patriots have a tougher schedule. So say they do somehow lose to the Colts, then Buffalo, then they do get Jacksonville, but then they get Miami to close the season. Now we know what happened with Miami to close the season last year against the Bills, where they had a clunker, but I don't expect that this year. So especially with the Dolphins still being in this. So AFC is wild. NFC is less wild. And let's get over to the NFC. So updated, Cardinals are
10-3.
And they're the 2 seed, right?
They are?
I don't think they hold the tiebreaker over the Packers.
Didn't they play?
Yeah, didn't the Packers win?
They probably had a game.
We could definitely look that up. But
so the Packers did win. The Packers are the 1 seed.
Yeah, so the Packers are virtually locked into the playoffs. The Cardinals then are the 2 seed, I believe, and then the Bucks, the 3 seed, and the Cowboys. Those 4 teams are in the playoffs. They have made it. They are not mathematically in the playoffs yet, but they have made it.
They are above 99% chance to get in the playoffs.
Yes. So the first 4 teams are locked. The Rams just won, so they're 9-4. Their chances to make the playoffs are probably sitting at over 90%. We've been talking about this for a few weeks, but the first 5 teams in the NFC are locked and loaded. It's the last 2 teams that are very much so in flux. But the San Francisco 49ers are kind of putting their stamp on this and saying there's only one spot to battle for. 49ers at 7-6 right now have a 76% chance to make the playoffs. They are the 6 seed. And then the 7 seed right now is the Washington football team at 6-7, 27% chance. They're sitting there now and they have a worse chance than like 2 teams behind them. Vikings 6-7, 33%. Eagles 38%. Falcons are somehow 6-7 despite being one of the worst teams in the NFL. DVOA wise, just not a good football team. Only 12%. Saints at 6-7, 20%. And then a flurry of teams that are not mathematically eliminated, but are definitely eliminated. Panthers, Seahawks, Giants, and Bears. Bears at 4-9 could still get into the playoffs, and that's absurd. 0.3%
Yeah.
chance, though.
In my opinion, once the only team past the Saints there that have a chance is the Seahawks. And that's because the Seahawks schedule, because they have to win basically to get in. Seahawks play the Rams this week, and then I don't think I actually put them on there because I figured they'd probably lose. So I'll actually pull them up. But
yeah, so we
for the most
talked
part,
about
those last ones I would just kind of move on from.
Yeah.
But because basically they're in there right now, they lose one game, they're done. But Seahawks, they have a tough game this week against the Rams, no doubt. Then they play the Bears, who might be mathematically eliminated by then. Then they play the Lions, who are mathematically eliminated. Then they end against the Cardinals. So in that race, the Cardinals, with a loss tonight, they move from the 1 seed to definitely the 2, possibly the 3. I don't know how that tiebreaker works out off the top of my head. But when you break that down, there's a chance that we get to the point where they know they're not the 1 seed going into that week. And if the Seahawks are win and get in kind of scenario, they might get a resting Cardinals organization, which is huge. So I think they still have a relative chance to make it, but it all hinges kind of on this week. I think they kind of have to win this week because then they could finish then 9-8 basically, and I think that probably gets you in, or at least gets you the chance. But if you lose this week, you probably dropped out about 1%. You go into that last week 7-9, hoping to go 8-9. I don't know if you get in.
Out of those teams that are like realistic options, maybe not the Seahawks, who do you think makes the playoffs in that last slot?
Yeah, so I think Washington's out. I think this Heineken injury is pretty much just destroyed their odds. Yeah. They face the Eagles this week, and then they face the Eagles again 2 weeks after that. So I think the Eagles definitely win this week with Heineken most likely not playing. And then if Heineken can come back for the next one, they have a chance to win that one. But at that point, what does it turn out to be? But that's a key matchup this week. So I'm going to go Washington's done, basically, because of that. Falcons, I'd also say, just screw it. You're done. I don't care. They play the 49ers this week. Again, we said the 49ers are going to stamp their claim to the 6th seed and just call it. Vikings, who do they play this week? They play the Bears, so they kick the Bears out if they win. That's not a guaranteed victory by any means, don't get me wrong, but I think they do pull out the victory. And Panthers play the Bills. So we could rule out the Panthers, we could rule out the Giants, we put the Cowboys, and could probably rule out the Bears. So you already take off 3 of the 15 teams, go down to 12. If the Seahawks lose, you could almost take them off the book. I think Falcons aren't a good team, so I just don't think they make it. So for me, it's one spot, and I'll give it to. For me, it's either Eagles or Vikings. I don't know.
Vikings have a tougher schedule than the Eagles, which is why I think I'd go the Eagles.
Yeah. So Eagles, Washington, Giants, Washington, and then they finish against the Cowboys. But we're probably resting because they have claimed the division. However, if the Eagles win these next 3, they then go to 9-7 going into the last week, and the Cowboys, while they do play the Giants this week, they don't have they play Washington the week after, and then they play the Cardinals. So they may not be resting. It might be for the division kind of thing. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's very true. The Vikings, on the other hand, they have the Bears this week, but then they follow up with the Rams and Packers, and I think that's going to be the dagger there. I think they lose probably both.
I think they can maybe win one of those, but we just went off saying the Eagles probably win all 3 of the next 3, or at least 2 of the next 3. Yeah. So that means the Eagles make it, which is crazy.
I want to pat myself on the back, because I remember when we talked about this like 6 weeks ago, and you were like, you could probably write off the Eagles. I was like, man, I don't know yet. I don't know. They're playing better.
But they've gotten some key wins, though.
They have. They've played really well, and they tailored the offense to be around Jalen Hurts, and then they changed it to be tailored around Gardner Minshew, and it's awesome what they're doing. So I hope they
tailoring around someone. Taysom Hill and the Saints with Kamara back. They play Tampa this week, which
the
is going to
problem.
damper their hopes. But this could be a closer game than people were expecting. It's a Sunday night game as well. But then they face the Dolphins, the Panthers, and the Falcons. So I
it
don't
could
think
be
we could rule out the Saints either. This week will say a lot.
It will.
That's what kind of sucked. I went through and put all the key games, and I got through pretty much every game this week on the schedule for
It's
key
nuts.
games because there's so many teams possibly in the playoffs. This is going to be a very, very pivotal week for a lot of teams. Week 16 will be the nail in the coffin for a lot of teams, if not the sealer for some teams. So when we revisit this, maybe like week 17, I think we'll have a very clear understanding of who has the actual pick or actual attempt to get in. But for right now, I think I would pick the Eagles and the 49ers to get in.
I agree. I virtually think the 49ers are locked, which
Well, I mean, they get the Falcons this week. Then they get the Titans, which is not an easy win or even a
No.
possibility of a win.
I think they beat the Titans.
And they finish against the Rams. So I mean, they are the best team of that bunch, but they by no means have the easiest schedule with that bunch is the problem. Because it's Falcons, Titans, Texans, Rams. So I think they easily win half of those. But that's the problem. Is 2 enough?
I think so. I think 9 wins. So I think 10 wins get you in the AFC, and I think 9 wins get you in the NFC, and I think going 2-2 gets them in. So even if they end up the 7 seed, I think they're in. But yeah, it's going to be a wild ride down the stretch, and I know everyone's going to be focused on their fantasy playoffs, but I truly, and I'm in a lot of playoffs, I'm more excited to see how the NFL playoffs unfold because this is the year of parity. We've talked about it, but there's literally never been a season with this many close to 500 teams. I've heard it. I don't know who has the stat. It's probably like ESPN or something, but lots of close games and lots of very good football teams, or very mediocre football teams, I guess I should say. So.
Yeah, but so if you're an AFC team on the bubble, so if you are the Browns, Bengals, Broncos, Steelers, Raiders, Dolphins, Thursday, who do we want to win? Chiefs or Chargers?
Chiefs.
You want the Chargers to win, muddy everything up, to keep competition alive for the AFC West, or do you want the Chiefs to win to kind of lock it up? The Chiefs don't have the hardest schedule down the stretch.
Yeah, I'd take the Chiefs. I mean, I'm rooting for the Chiefs. We were rooting for the Chargers to lose this week. So
the Chiefs play everyone on that list. So the Chiefs play the Chargers, then the Steelers, then the Bengals, then the Broncos. So
that is a tough. Yeah, it is. That's why, you know what? No, let's root for chaos. I'm rooting for the Chargers.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. And that way, when you get to that week 17, the Chiefs are 100% trying to beat down the Broncos. And, it just gets that one team out of the fold with the Broncos there. I think that's what you kind of have to want. If for Browns or Bengals or Steelers fans, you just want everyone in the division to lose, basically, because especially the Steelers, your best hope is like division.
Yeah, that's so true. All right, we've talked for far too long on this episode, so we will call it quits. Make sure you guys check out all the other podcasts on this feed, the Coach Approach, DFS Deep Dive, and the College Football Cut. It's Spider-Man week, guys. We'll get back to our Marvel talk, I believe, on Thursday. I believe Sean will be joining us, and Sean is as heavily invested in Marvel talk as we are. We'll probably touch on some Hawkeye and definitely some. We're gonna do a little Spider-Man theories segment.
I will say I won't be watching Spider-Man this weekend.
Yeah, which is going to be super unfortunate because I'm going to see it on Saturday. So
it's just I know a lot of places are already sold out for at least the first 2 days. Sundays are always really rough to get into movie theaters because it's like the only day people actually do it, and it's football, playoff football, and I will be out of town, so it's just no shot I'm watching it. I think it's looking like maybe Tuesday.
Monday.
So
That's fair. We'll talk about it the following week, but it's Spider-Man week. I've been waiting for this day for so long.
We wouldn't talk about it Monday anyways, because it'd be too close. It'd be spoilers, which we don't want to do.
Realistically, we can't even talk about it next Thursday. We got to give it some time. But
I'm going to be muting everything along with it on Twitter just to get through.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough scene these days. Well, the screeners were tonight for the media, and I saw that they took everyone's phones, and I believe they threatened them that if they leak anything, they will be banned from Marvel events. So
smart, deserved.
So hopefully no one leaks, but hopefully if they do, they really do get banned. So, all right, guys, make sure you guys check out the rankings too. We'll tell you all this on Wednesday, but or on Thursday, but rankings will be updated for you guys this week, especially with the pivotal playoff matchups. Randy, anything to add before we bounce?
Nope.
All right. For Randy Hall, I'm Christian Williams. We'll talk to you guys later this week. Peace.